Prison bully intimidates a new inmate without knowing he's a lethal assassin. The ending shocks everyone. They say, in Blackridge, silence can be deadlier than any weapon. And that day, one quiet man turned the entire cafeteria into hell on earth. The La Cumbre Negra maximum security prison, buried deep in the dry mountains of Zacatecas, Mexico, was the kind of place that broke even the toughest men. Inside, the rule was simple: bow down or get broken. No pride, no mercy, no second chances. Once you passed through those gates, you stopped being a man and became just another number, another ghost trapped between concrete and steel. The sun scorched the guard towers while the desert wind carried dust through the corridors. The smell of rust, sweat, and spoiled food filled the air. In the East Wing cafeteria, trays clattered, inmates shouted, and guards pretended not to hear. But that day, something felt off. A heavy silence hung around one man. He sat alone in the corner, eating slowly, eyes down, calm as stone. Cayo Mendoza, new inmate. Quiet, hard to read. He didn't ask for anything, didn't look at anyone, didn't react. And that bothered one man more than it should have. Bruno El Ogro Salvatierra, the East Wing bully, was the kind of guy whose name made even the toughest men step aside. Big, hairy, covered in scars and ink that told stories no one dared to ask about. To Bruno, respect was earned through pain. Silence, that was a challenge. And Cayo was a walking insult. "Look at that, the cafeteria monk," Bruno growled, flashing a broken grin as he walked up. Cayo didn't look up. He just cut another piece of that pale meat and took a bite. The room went still. Everyone knew what was coming. Bruno grabbed a bucket from the kitchen, full of rotting food scraps, grease and paper, and dumped it over Cayo's head. The sludge ran down his neck, his face, his arms, soaking into the fabric of his jumpsuit. Still, Cayo didn't move. He just wiped his eyes, brushed the trash off the table, and kept eating. That silence froze the whole room. Some inmates held their breath. Others exchanged nervous glances. Everyone in there knew the truth. A man who doesn't react to humiliation is either a coward or someone who's done things this world wouldn't understand. By nightfall, the rumors had already spread. Cayo wasn't just some tattooed accountant like they thought. His name was buried in classified reports, redacted and forgotten. Ex-Black Ops, silent eliminator, officially declared dead years ago. But now here he was, just another prisoner, covered in filth and silence. The next morning the yard felt different, not because of the heat, that was constant, but because of the fear. A quiet kind of fear. And a man walking through the shadows, hands in his pockets, head down. Cayo. Bruno, on the other hand, couldn't shake the feeling crawling under his skin. "They say he kills people in their sleep," whispered one rookie. "Nah, man. They say he wiped out a whole squad and vanished," another muttered. Bruno laughed, loud and fake. "Scary stories for babies. If he's that dangerous, why is he washing trays?" But the laugh didn't hide his unease. That calm, that dead stare from Cayo. It wasn't courage. It was emptiness. Like a man who'd already seen worse than hell itself. That night, Bruno decided to prove he was still in charge. He waited for the late shift, the kitchen of Block C, where the cameras always glitched. Cayo was there, washing trays under dim yellow light. "Well, well," Bruno sneered from the doorway. "The silent tattoo boy cleaning dishes? You gonna mop the floor next, janitor?" Nothing. Cayo didn't even blink. Bruno moved closer, grabbed his shoulder and spun him around. "You deaf? Or just stupid, huh?" That was the last thing he said. In a blur, Cayo broke Bruno's grip, twisted his arm, and drove an elbow straight into his jaw. The crack echoed. Bruno staggered, but before he could fall, Cayo grabbed his collar and slammed him against the industrial stove, hard. Pots crashed, trays flew, and silence fell again. Cayo stepped closer, same calm eyes, no anger, no rush, cold, controlled, deadly. "You should have been scared, Bruno," he whispered, "but now it's too late." By the time the guards burst in, Caio was already standing still, hands raised. The bully lay unconscious on the floor. And the quiet man, that same quiet man, just stood there, covered in filth and steel light, staring with eyes that had seen and done the unthinkable. La Cumbre Negra wasn't just built from concrete and bars, it was built from codes, unwritten rules that shifted with every glance, every misstep, deals sealed in blood, enemies who smiled at you over lunch. Unlike most prisons where gangs split by race or neighborhood, La Cumbre Negra ran on three currencies: contraband, control, and intel. Whoever owned the guards owned the flow, and whoever owned the flow owned survival. After the kitchen incident, Caio Mendoza became a ghost everyone feared. He didn't look for allies, but he didn't push them away either. He just listened, watched, and vanished. One of the first to approach him was Nelson El Lynch Cardenas, a thin, fast-talking Colombian who ran the small trade of cell phones and hand-rolled tobacco. "What you did to El Ogro? Clean work. I liked it," Nelson said one humid afternoon in the yard. "I don't know who you were out there, but in here, you could make a fortune if you play it smart." Caio just looked at him, then turned away and walked off. Nelson didn't follow. In the infirmary, one of the guards, paid by the local cartel, was already whispering Caio's name. "A guy like that doesn't just show up here," said Officer Ricardo Montalvan, watching the security feed. "He came for something. We just don't know what yet." Caio, meanwhile, absorbed everything. Every corridor, every guard rotation, every flicker in the cameras. He studied the electric fence timings, the guard codes, even the nervous glances exchanged in the cafeteria since Bruno's downfall. He rarely spoke. He just noticed. His cell was bare, 2 shelves of philosophy books, an unopened pack of cigarettes, and a hand-carved wooden rosary. He didn't pray. He just ran his fingers through the beads, like counting memories instead of sins. At night, he whispered names under his breath, a ritual or a list. Rumors of his past spread like wildfire. Some said he'd worked covert ops in southern Africa. Others swore he'd been a Mexican government hitman, taking out cartels that got too powerful. A few claimed he was a deserter, buried in prison to keep him quiet forever. No one could prove a thing, not even the guards. Meanwhile, Bruno El Ogro Salvatierra was still in the infirmary. Broken jaw, cracked ribs. His right-hand man, Nando Cicatriz Reyes, had taken over the East Wing, but everyone knew he didn't carry the same weight. Something had shifted. Caio didn't need to raise his voice. His presence was a warning, his absence a bad omen. One night during lockup, an old prisoner named Manuel Galvez whispered to his cellmate, "I've seen that kind of man before, back in the narco war, 2010. He was a soldier." "No, he was the one they sent when the soldiers failed. Once fear breaks, it never goes back to what it was." And since the kitchen, La Cumbre Negra, hadn't been the same, Nando knew he had to restore control. Not through brute force, that wasn't his game, but through precision. He was cunning, quiet, and he knew exactly which strings to pull. His first move, reinforcement. He called in Ivan El Sapo Valverde, a professional killer transferred from Tijuana, on the quiet orders of a cartel boss who wanted internal adjustments. El Sapo was no show-off. Calm, patient, the kind of man who could kill you with a toothbrush or just a stare. The moment he arrived, Nando made his pitch. He's good, wants to make his mark, and who better to start with than the kitchen ghost himself? The plan was simple. Hit Caio Mendoza in the showers, limited visibility, muted sounds, 3 minutes, no witnesses. Accident, if anyone asked. But Nando didn't know. Caio already knew. He'd caught the subtle shifts in guard patrols, the whispers that didn't fit, the new faces watching him. He'd run this kind of operation before. It was what he used to do. When shower time came, Kaio entered as usual. Quiet, calm, waiting. The first man came from behind. Kaio pivoted, locked the arm and drove his elbow into the man's ribs. The crack echoed off the tiles. The second lunged with a shiv. Kaio sidestepped and buried a knee deep into his solar plexus. Only El Sapo remained, standing still, smirking. "Just wanted a closer look," he murmured, before turning and walking away, like it had all been a test. The story of the failed attack spread fast. No screams, no blood, no panic. Just two men broken and a camera that mysteriously went dark for 3 minutes. Colonel Fabian Mir, the warden, was called in. He'd seen that kind of pattern before. "This isn't your average inmate," he said. "This is a state weapon that got misplaced." "Transfer him out?" one officer asked. "No. Find out who sent him here and why." Meanwhile, deep in the shadows of Block D, El Sapo lit a hand-rolled cigarette beside Nando. "He's not like the others," Sapo muttered. "He doesn't act out of rage or fear. He calculates. And that scares me more than any psycho." Nando smirked. "So what do? We wait until he makes the first mistake." But Kaio didn't make mistakes. He just kept going, observing, mapping, memorizing every delivery truck schedule, every blind spot, every weak link. It wasn't about escaping. It was about something bigger. Later, in the yard, El Lince approached again. "Hey, you know who runs the North Wing?" Kaio looked up for the first time. "You!" Nelson swallowed hard. I was." "You still are," Kaio said flatly. That was the end of the conversation, but the message was loud and clear. Kaio knew everything. The inmates began to split. Some drew closer, chasing his approval. Others avoided even looking at him. A few offered jobs, hits, smuggling, protection. Kaio turned them all down, wordlessly. Just silence. The tension in La Cumbre Negra grew thick enough to choke on. Everyone could feel it. Something was about to snap. And one thing was certain. Cayo Mendoza wasn't there by accident. While the name Cayo Mendoza spread through La Cumbre Negra like a war whisper echoing down its concrete halls, other silent threads began to move behind the scenes. The first thread pulled tight around Colonel Fabian Mir, the prison warden. Days after Cayo's arrival, he'd received a sealed dossier. No signature. No official stamp, just a single note. "Keep him under watch. He'll find the target himself." That line changed everything. From that day on, Fabian studied Cayo's every move. He didn't intervene. He didn't question. He just waited. Because that man wasn't a regular inmate. He was a mission in human form. Meanwhile, Nelson El Lince Cardenas, once the quiet king of the North Wing, was losing ground. His smuggling network was crumbling, not from violence, but from fear. Suppliers went dark. Guards stopped taking bribes. Nobody wanted their name tied to anything, and everyone assumed Cayo was behind it. But Cayo hadn't lifted a finger. He just watched. And that, more than anything, made him dangerous. Nelson turned to the only man people still trusted inside those walls, Father Leon, the prison chaplain, old, calm, respected. "This place is about to explode," Nelson said, voice tight, "and it's going to be because of him." "Or maybe," the priest replied, eyes fixed on the wooden Christ above the altar, "because of the one he came to find. Because there was more." Deep inside the maximum security block, sealed off from the rest of the prison, lived a man no one ever saw or heard. He was known only by his number, User 6432B, but his real name was Mauricio Peña, former Gulf Cartel lieutenant, officially dead for years. until he resurfaced inside the system under a fake identity. No one knew, except a handful of people at the top, and Kaio. From his first day, he'd mapped the access routes to the isolation block, counted every guard's steps, noted every shift rotation. Because Peña was the target, not personal revenge, not hatred, just an unfinished mission. At the same time, El Sapo, the hitman for hire, was spinning his own web. He figured sooner or later Kaio would slip, even just once. So he used Carmen Mia, the warden's daughter and newly assigned nurse, as bait. Carmen didn't trust anyone, but fate or design put her in Kaio's path after a minor cut sent him to the infirmary. Their meeting was brief, but enough for El Sapo to whisper his trap into motion. He's just a tired man. Show him a little compassion. Maybe he'll crack. But Kaio didn't crack. "You're not a regular nurse," he said, locking eyes with her. "And you're not just another inmate," she replied. The air between them was strange, cold but charged. El Sapo saw possibility. A weakness, maybe. Meanwhile, Nando Cicatriz Reyes was plotting his final move. "We lure him to a blind corridor. No cameras, no witnesses. I'll finish it myself." But time was running out. The colonel was receiving increasingly urgent orders. Kaio knew the clock was ticking, and everyone inside La Cumbre Negra could feel it. Something was about to break. Something bigger than him, maybe bigger than the prison itself. Then came Wednesday. The air was heavy, unmoving. Even the crows that perched on the infirmary roof were gone. 6:43 a.m. The main alarm blared, not for a riot, not for an escape. Block F, maximum security. The block where Mauricio Peña, the man Kaio had been silently watching, had been locked away for months. In the tower, every monitor went dark for 3 minutes, power failure in one of the generators. When the feed returned, one guard was found unconscious inside Peña's cell. And Peña, gone. Not dead, not rescued, just gone. Panic erupted. Full lockdown, head count, sweep, no broken walls, no open gates, nothing. And through it all, Kaio sat in the yard, calmly running his fingers across his wooden rosary. In the infirmary, Carmen Mia was rushed to treat a guard in shock. While tending to him, a folder slipped from the desk, her father's handwriting scattered across one of the pages. She shouldn't have read it, but she did. Kaio Mendoza, ghost operative, mission reactivated, neutralize Peña in controlled environment. Off-record authorization, file 0317X. Her blood turned to ice. He wasn't just an ex-soldier. He wasn't even a man in hiding. He was a weapon, reactivated inside the walls. Shaken, Carmen knew she had to confront him. Meanwhile, rumors spread like wildfire through the blocks. He was the last one seen near F Block before the blackout. He killed Peña. No body, no trace. He's working for someone outside. They're cleaning up the past. El Sapo smelled opportunity. With Nando and 2 others, he set the trap, the final punishment, the setup, lure Kaio to the disposal room behind the laundry. No cameras, no witnesses, just noise from the washers to cover the screams. But Carmen got there first. She found Kaio already waiting, standing in the corridor like he knew she'd come. "Why are you here?" she asked, voice trembling. "Because the mission's not over. Peña's gone. No one just disappears. Not him." She swallowed hard. "Did you kill him?" Kaio looked at her, his eyes human for the first time. Not cold, not distant, just real. "No." "Then where is he?" He turned slightly. "That's what they want to know too." No time for more. The attack came fast. 2 men from behind. El Sapo from the front. Kaio spun, blocked a blow with his forearm, grabbed one attacker and used him as a shield against the others. Bones cracked, metal clanged. El Sapo lunged with a knife, sloppy. Kaio twisted his wrist, redirected the blade, and slammed him headfirst into the concrete. Carmen screamed. Guards were already running. Kaio stepped back, breathing steady, not from exhaustion, but realization. The game had changed. He was now the eye of the storm. Peña was gone. The system was on full alert, and he'd just dropped 3 men in another camera dead zone. Carmen looked at him, terrified. "You're not in control anymore, are you?" Cayo's reply was quiet. "I never was. I just follow orders." And then he was gone. By the time guards flooded the corridor, there was no sign of him. Later that night, Colonel Fabian Mir, shaken and pale, called a secure number. The reply came through the static, cold and final. "Mendoza failed, but he can still correct it." Now, Cayo Mendoza had 2 missions: find Peña and survive La Cumbre Negra. The disappearance of Mauricio Peña hit La Cumbre Negra like a silent earthquake. No one knew where the epicenter was, but everyone felt the tremor. In the cafeteria, the air was so tense it could crack. Inmates spoke less. Eyes darted fast. The atmosphere wasn't one of dominance anymore. It was one of waiting for something worse. Nando Cicatriz Reyes, with 2 of his men nursing broken bones, and El Sapo limping around with a shattered nose and a bruised ego, could feel the throne of the East Wing collapsing beneath him. He tried to fight back, to point fingers, but nothing stuck. No proof, no body, no logic. "He killed Peña. It had to be him," Nando shouted at Colonel Fabian Mir. "You saw it happen?" Fabian asked flatly. "No." "Then shut up, Reyes, and stay alive." Even among the guards, the name Mendoza started being spoken carefully. "He's ex-special ops, right?" "Nah, he's a contract killer. I heard he works for some agency even the government doesn't know about." Carmen Mir was now standing at the eye of the storm. After witnessing the fight in the laundry room, her father forbade her from walking around the prison alone. "That man's a weapon, not a person. You can't trust him." "Then why keep him here?" "Because despite everything, he's still useful." But Carmen knew better. Cayo wasn't a blind instrument, not anymore. She'd seen something flicker in his eyes that day, doubt. And that scared her more than anything. While the prison tightened into maximum alert, Cayo Mendoza kept his same quiet rhythm. But inside, something was shifting. Peña wasn't dead. He'd escaped, or someone had let him out. Cayo started digging. Working in the supply room, he began noticing discrepancies. Forged signatures, missing uniforms, delivery sheets that didn't match. And then he found it. A laundry cart logged out at a time outside the usual schedule, signed off by the same guard later found locked inside Peña's cell. He walked out from the inside, in disguise. Now the question wasn't how Peña got out, it was who let him. Meanwhile, the balance of power among inmates was cracking. Nelson El Lince Cardenas quietly stepped away from his crumbling empire in the North Wing and approached Cayo. "I know you're not here by accident." Cayo said nothing. "But if you plan on getting out of this alive, you're gonna need eyes, and I've got plenty." Cayo studied him like a man evaluating a weapon that had already been used. "Bring me something real," he said finally. "Then I'll listen." To Nelson, that was as close to a yes as anyone could dream of getting. Outside the walls, things were stirring too. Federal agencies had received inside intel. Peña was alive and free. But the bigger problem was this. If he escaped with inside help, we've got a network buried deep in the prison system. Cayo, without realizing it, was now the key piece on a board much larger than La Cumbre Negra itself, and he could feel it, not as a burden, but as a signal that the real mission hadn't even begun. The next few days turned into a silent chess game. Cayo Mendoza, once the lone wolf, now needed something he'd always despised, alliances, not out of weakness, out of precision. Peña's escape wasn't just a mission failure, it was a protocol breach, the kind that hinted at something far bigger. If there was a network helping Peña, that meant Cayo was surrounded by invisible enemies. The first change in him wasn't physical, it was in his eyes. He started really looking at people. Before, everything around him had been background noise. Now every corridor, every tray handed to him, every glance, he measured intentions, weighed risks, tested loyalties, and Nelson El Lince noticed. "You're hunting something, aren't you?" he whispered one afternoon, slipping Cayo a pack of tobacco hidden inside a towel delivery. Cayo didn't answer, but for the first time he accepted the trade. Not to smoke, to buy information. That was the beginning of a new kind of war. Cayo knew time was running out. Peña was alive and free. That meant someone powerful wanted him out, or Peña still had unfinished business. But then another thought struck Cayo like ice. What if my mission was a lie? What if they sent me here not to kill him, but to die with him? With that thought burning in his chest, he moved even more carefully. He volunteered for shifts in the library, giving him access to archived admin logs, old but full of details. He started helping in the medical wing, eavesdropping on guards and memorizing movement protocols. And most importantly, he reconnected with Carmen Mir. "You read my file, didn't you?" he asked quietly, certain of her silence. She hesitated, then nodded. "I saw you came in under an authorization that doesn't exist in any record. And you still talk to me? Because I also saw you hesitate." Cayo said nothing for a long time, but it wasn't indifference. It was the silence of a man starting to question everything he'd ever believed. Meanwhile, the enemy was regrouping. Nando Reyes, cornered by humiliation and losing respect, reached out to corrupt officers. He paid for an internal map of the prison, not blueprints, but routines, patrol routes, weak spots. His plan: ambush Cayo during one of his new escort shifts to the infirmary. Simple, quick, final. But Cayo wasn't the same man anymore. He noticed the slight delay in his escort time. The sudden substitution of 2 guards for the notorious Shift B, the violent crew. He knew instantly it was a setup. This time he didn't face it alone. Nelson appeared down the corridor with 2 men, shaking a metal can full of coins, a loud, obvious distraction. "Heard there's a game going on in the infirmary," he shouted, drawing eyes and attention away from the ambush. The fight never happened, but Nando's plan fell apart again. And this time, he was the one trembling. "That bastard's got allies now?" "No," said El Sapo from across the hall, wiping his nose. "He's got something worse. Loyalty." Bit by bit, Cayo was transforming, from a lone predator into a strategic force. He didn't rule through fear. He ruled because people knew he saw what others didn't, and in prison, that was worth more than any blade. Meanwhile, Carmen had started collecting documents, cross-referencing data, and doing the unthinkable, investigating her own father. Because the closer she got to Cayo, the more she realized something was wrong with his original mission. And Cayo was changing too. He was still lethal. But now, he hesitated before killing. He started questioning his orders. And for the first time in years, he started remembering who he used to be. On the 32nd night since Mauricio Peña's disappearance, La Cumbre Negra went into silent lockdown. There was a strange unease among the guards, a tension thick enough to choke on. Everyone felt something was about to happen. No one knew what, not even Colonel Fabian Mir. Behind the scenes, Carmen was still digging. She'd been cross-referencing files from the medical archives and the prison's encrypted database when a code kept showing up again and again. R731 Cruise. After tracing it, the truth hit her hard. It was an authorization code for covert prisoner extraction under international threat. Peña hadn't escaped. He'd been evacuated by federal security. And worse, her father had helped. Fueled by rage and disbelief, Carmen went straight to Cayo. "You never failed," she said. "They just wanted it to look that way." Caio stood silent for a moment. "I wasn't sent to kill Peña, Carmen," he finally said. "I was sent to silence what he knew." She stepped closer. "And now?" "Now, I have to get out, before they silence me too." Meanwhile, Nelson El Lince Cardenas stepped forward, sensing his role in this story was nearing its end. "I've got access to part of the old wing," he said. "The forgotten one. Nobody goes there anymore, except those who've lasted too long in this place." The plan began to take shape. Nelson would access an ancient power panel to kill the electricity in the central block for 90 seconds. Carmen would forge medical evacuation codes for a fake emergency transfer. Caio, working the night cleaning shift in the infirmary, would reach an old maintenance tunnel hidden beneath the prison's decayed sewage system, sealed off years ago, but never destroyed. Every move had to be perfect. One mistake would cost more than freedom. It would cost lives. But while they were setting their plan in motion, Nando Reyes was setting his own. Humiliated, cornered, and desperate to reclaim control, he snapped. "I want him dead before sunrise," he growled. He rallied his last loyal soldiers, 6 men armed with shivs, pipes, and sharpened scraps of metal. Only El Sapo refused to join. "This game's past its end, Reyes," he muttered. "Now it's between him and the system." But Nando didn't listen. That night, the plan unfolded. 2:11 a.m. The central block's generator went down. For 90 seconds, the prison went blind. Cameras blacked out, lights flickered, digital locks froze in emergency mode. The infirmary corridor, usually crawling with guards, was empty. Caio moved, silent, precise, calm. He slipped into the old drainage shaft, pried open the corroded grate Nelson had prepped with diluted acid, and vanished into the tunnel below. But he wasn't alone. As he turned the second corridor underground, he saw 2 shadows, and behind them, that familiar sound of labored breathing. Nando Reyes. "I should have killed you the first time I saw you," Nando hissed, his voice burning with hate. Caio stopped, assessed. 2 to his left, 3 ahead, Nando in the middle, 5 against 1. But he didn't hesitate, because that night there was no way back. The tunnels beneath La Cumbre Negra stank of rust, mold, and time. Cracked walls dripped with water, echoing the faint rhythm of slow, heavy breathing. Caio stood in the center of the narrow passage, body relaxed, eyes fixed on Nando Cicatriz Reyes. Emerging from the shadows, flanked by 4 men with blades wrapped in cloth and hatred in their faces. "The king of the prison," Nando sneered. "Or just another ghost they forgot to bury." Caio said nothing. Still, centered, every muscle ready. The first man lunged from the right. Caio moved like he'd rehearsed it 1,000 times, twisting, locking the man's wrist and snapping it with a clean, dry crack. The man dropped screaming. Caio didn't even look at him. "Now!" Nando roared. The others charged. The second went for a straight thrust. Caio sidestepped, grabbed the blade by the edge, blood spilling from his palm, and drove it into the man's knee. The third swung from behind. Caio spun, slamming his elbow into the man's jaw. 2 seconds, 3 moves. 2 men down. The others froze. Nando didn't. He charged, wild, loud, unthinking. Caio waited, then ducked low, ramming his shoulder into Nando's gut and slamming him against the wet concrete wall. "You think you're special?" Nando spat. "No," Caio replied, voice calm. "I'm just what's left." Nando drew a hidden knife, but before he could swing, Caio drove a punch straight into his throat, dropping him to his knees, choking. The last 2 attackers backed off, not out of mercy. Out of realization. Caio wasn't just a killer, he was what happens when you train a man to kill and then abandon him. Nando made one last, desperate move, grabbing a rusty pipe from the floor. Caio kicked his wrist, forcing the pipe loose, then pinned him down with a knee to the chest. You don't belong here, Nando gasped. Neither do you, Kaio said quietly. But we all make choices. He looked around. Silence. The tunnel reeked of blood and breath and fear. And then, another presence. A single shadow stepped into the dim light. El Sapo, unarmed, expressionless. Is it over? He asked. Kaio rose to his feet. Not yet. But for them, yeah. El Sapo glanced at the broken men on the ground, then back at Kaio. Am I supposed to fight you now? Kaio shook his head. You already understand. This isn't about the prison anymore. It's about what they left behind. El Sapo exhaled slowly. You're leaving? Yes. And I'm not asking permission. El Sapo stepped aside, wordless. Kaio limped past, blood dripping from his palm, his eyes calm, resolute, like a man who finally remembered where he was meant to go. Up above in the infirmary, Carmen Mir stared at the auxiliary panel. The underground access door's been breached, she whispered. Colonel Fabian appeared behind her. Did you see Mendoza? No, she lied. But if he went through there, he's already gone. At exactly 3 a.m., the alarms screamed to life. Too late. Kaio Mendoza had vanished from the system. No trace, no record, just like Peña. But while one man escaped into the world, the other was already coming for him. 3 weeks after the blackout, La Cumbre Negra had fallen back into its suffocating routine. The scars were hidden beneath freshly painted walls, edited reports, and newly installed cameras. But those who'd survived that night would never forget the name Kaio Mendoza. Nando Reyes, broken in body and mind, was transferred to a psychiatric wing in Oaxaca. He never spoke again. Never walked without help. Erased, like so many others who'd made the mistake of crossing the wrong man. El Sapo, who had witnessed everything up close, abandoned any trace of ambition. He stayed alive because he'd known when to step back. And among the inmates, he became a quiet legend, the only one who'd understood Kaio without having to face him to the end. Nelson El Lince Cardenas, after offering his help, took control of the North Wing. But he knew survival depended on silence. He never told anyone about the escape, never mentioned the name, and that was why he lived. As for Colonel Fabian Mir, he kept his position but lost his daughter and his conviction. Carmen, after uncovering the truth, that Peña had been extracted with federal backing and that Kaio had been sent to bury a corrupt state's dirty past, walked away from everything. She changed her name, her city, her life. But before disappearing, she left an envelope on her father's desk. No signature. Just one line. He finished the mission you tried to bury. Outside, the press never learned of the escape, but Peña had finally been found. Not by the government, not by the police, by Kaio. In a remote farm in Nayarit, hidden under the protection of an elite paramilitary cell tied to the old cartel, Peña lived like a rich ghost, untouchable. Until that night. Cameras went dark, dogs silenced, guards neutralized without a single gunshot. Peña woke to the sound of footsteps and a shadow standing in front of him. I knew you'd come, Peña whispered. I always knew they wouldn't erase you. Kaio didn't answer. You gonna kill me? Kaio stepped closer. No, I just want to know why. Peña hesitated. Because if I talked, the whole country would burn. So you ran. I survived. Kaio lowered his head slightly as if understanding, then quietly handed him a cell phone. You've got 2 options. You talk, or I let someone else handle it. And they won't ask twice. Peña stared at the phone. He knew what waited on the other end of that line, and he knew Kaio wouldn't save him again. 2 days later, a classified dossier surfaced anonymously on international servers. Documents, recordings, proof, a chain of corruption, military, political, corporate, all tied to the silence of Mauricio Peña. The world called it Operation Ghost. Cayo's name was never mentioned, but those who knew exactly who had closed the circle. Months later, in a small Central American port, a quiet man boarded a cargo ship, a rosary in his pocket, a fake passport in his hand. No mission, no orders. For the first time in years, he was free. Cayo Mendoza had finished everything, and with it, his entire past. Under the golden sun of a tiny coastal village, a man tended to a patch of dry soil, planting cacti with a steady hand and a faint smile. The locals called him Don Mateo, quiet, kind, gentle with the village kids. No one there knew that this humble gardener had once been a shadow trained to kill. As he buried another sprout, he paused, looked toward the horizon, and breathed. He wasn't part of a war anymore, not a mission, just life. And for Cayo Mendoza, that was enough. If this story kept you hooked from start to finish, leave a like, drop a comment about what surprised you the most, and share it with someone who loves powerful twists. Want more intense plots, silent revenge arcs, and endings that hit deep? Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next story. Every week, a new narrative that will move your mind and your heart. Here, every ending has weight, and every beginning hides a secret. See you in the next one. Until then.